What's up, guys and girls? This is Brock here, and we're on episode number 16 of the Better with Brock podcast. This morning, I have a client and becoming, I guess you could say, becoming a partnership or a friendship over this journey that we've had together. My client, Thern Reynolds, and he's actually the winner of the first Built by Brock challenge that we had. He had an amazing transformation in the 8-week challenge that we first ran. And as being a winner from that, we've done, we're going to be doing, it's not there yet, but 6 months of one-to-one coaching, which we're currently working through on our last 8 weeks with that. And I really wanted to get him on because he has achieved amazing things, but he's also been on a journey through his fitness. He also has a career that's very fitness oriented, I would say. Thanks for jumping on this morning, mate. I know it's kind of early, but I appreciate your time, man.
No, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So I kind of really want to start, I guess, with where you started and how your fitness journey has I guess started to, I guess, where you met me or came into Built by Brock and really, I guess, decided to take outside action on your progress. So how did it all start for you?
Well, I think I just have to go back a little bit. Well, actually go back over 20 years. As you know, I have been a professional dancer since I was 16 and work in musical theatre. And basically I started at the gym in my mid 20s. I'm 49 now. And I kept getting back injuries. And so I was seeing my osteopath, and I kept saying, I'm having this constant back pain. And he literally looked at me and he said, you have a really strong back, but you have no chest. And I was sort of like really flat chested, like no pectoral muscles. And he's like, you need to work the front of your body because the back of your body is taking the strain of what you're doing all the time. So you're putting too much pressure. That's how I started at the gym. So I basically hit the gym, and I was lucky. I sort of, my body responded very well to weights and to gym training. And it ended up being something that I loved. And I did it initially. I only started doing it because I had to improve, to help with my career. But then I love the gym, and I still do. But before I started the Built by Brock, the first challenge, I had hit a point, obviously with COVID as well, and lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff, particularly we had it shocking. But I just sat on the couch and ate donuts. Because donuts are another passion of mine. Gym and donuts, go figure. But it wasn't just donuts, but it was bad habits,
Yeah.
Sitting on the couch. And I just noticed that I had just stacked on. Well, actually, I didn't notice that I had stacked on weight, but I felt like I had. And it wasn't until I remember I messaged you literally, I think it was like late at night, like 9 p.m. the night before the first challenge started. And I messaged you and said, am I too late? And you were like, no, man, go ahead, sign up. So I literally just did it the night before, and I just woke up the next day ready to go. I think the catalyst for it really was after that conversation with you, when I took my photos and I saw the behind pic, and I said to my partner, Mark, I'm like, how could you not tell me that I looked like this? Like, how could you not mention it? And he said, well, I didn't really notice either, but I reckon he did, but he didn't mention it. But anyway, I saw those photos and I was absolutely horrified because I'd never in my life had gained that much weight. And I actually couldn't believe that it was me. So that next morning I woke up with a brand new, and we were locked up. So I even had a curfew at the time. I just woke up with the resolve and the drive. I was like, I'm going to do this. And it was just, I was so focused on it. And I was lucky. Thanks for letting me win. Hey.
Well, you earned it, man. You earned it.
Yeah.
And
I loved it. I loved that. And that first workout that I did was the home workout. And I wasn't even in a gym. And we had purchased, Mark and I had spent probably about $1,000 on just a few sets of dumbbells and a bench for home to get us through that period. And I literally won that challenge with one set of 30 kilo dumbbells, one set of 17.5 kilo dumbbells, and one set of 10 kilo dumbbells. That's all I had for that challenge. but it was the diet. It was the calorie deficit thing that really I think was the biggest tool in my box. I followed those calories, like I went hard with the diet. But that's what I think, really, it's the diet, and it's the way that you explained the calorie deficit. I've always felt that I had to take stuff away from myself to achieve something. And that was never something that sat well with me. I've never been on a diet. I've never been the sort of person that, because I've never had to.
Well, when you're dancing and you're, like I said, your career is like founded on fitness. You're so active. You don't really have to think about diet because you're burning so many calories. You can almost eat what you want and it just looks after you. Just looks after itself.
And I was a very skinny teenager. And then I think around 30, I started to really notice that my body had changed into like a man body before that. But, it was weird to suddenly think that food was having such a negative impact on, I shouldn't say food was, my choice of the amount of food that I was eating during that time was having such a profound effect on the way I looked. And that really struck me. When you get to my age, as I say, not that I'm really old, but when you get to your late 40s and you've spent a life, of fitness, looking and feeling good, and then suddenly you look in the mirror and all that's changed, and you have to make drastic changes and at least apply yourself. And that's what I loved. You made it really easy. It was very easy for me to focus on the information that you'd given me. And it wasn't complicated. And too many people in the past had always told me that I had to go without this. And you just made it sound easy to do, like in the sense that the methods and the just the discipline. And it just struck me. I've spent my whole life being disciplined. And it was just like you reminded me about the discipline. And I just applied, really.
So what were you, like, take us through, if you can come back to when you were doing the challenge, what were you actually eating in a day? Like, was it very different to what you were having before? Because you said you were, chilling on the couch eating donuts, and then you were like, all right, I'm going to join the challenge. I'm going to try this calorie deficit thing. What did it look like, your day to day?
It didn't change a lot. Like, what I was eating didn't change a lot, because I also do stand by the fact that I love food. I love pasta, and I love, as I say, donuts and cakes and sweets, and I love crisps, but I literally didn't change a lot. I mean, I ate healthier. I found myself, like, I love the Chobani Fit yogurt and the berries in the morning. That became a staple for me.
Yeah.
It became the way I started my day. And while it's not very filling, all I felt like I needed in the morning was just a little something inside to get me through the first few hours of the day. I learned to budget my intake. If you ask, again, I keep mentioning my partner Mark, but if you ask him, I'm a shockingly awful person when I'm hungry. Like, I'm a hangry, like, I'm one of those who I get crazy when I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And what this calorie deficit, and by spreading it, what it actually made me do was it actually made me tolerate that feeling of hunger. So I would only eat when I knew that I couldn't physically get through another minute of the day. So I just, instead of being a glutton and opening the cupboard whenever I felt like it for a chocolate chip cookie, it was just the mental strength of saying, no, you're not actually hungry, just wait a little bit longer. And I counted calories like I was to the absolute, by the time we finished that 8-week challenge, I think I was on 1,700 calories, but I started on 2,200. And what I did was just, as the weeks went by, I would see how I was feeling. And then I would just sort of, again, it's looking at it and thinking, well, I didn't really need that, but I had it. But I could, so if I really wanted to shred a little bit more, I could go without that. So we have those little, the little apple pies for dessert. Here's an example. And these are only the little 4 mini apple pies. I went from having one of those and a little tub of custard, which we love here in our house.
Yeah.
And I went from having, it's a mini apple pie. So then I said, okay, I can halve that apple pie. And the thing is that it's satisfying. It was enough just to halve the apple pie without having to eat the whole thing. And I think that's really what I learned. I love Asian food. So I would once a week, I would allow myself to have my Thai, like it's like a fried rice with, chicken and stuff, which is what I love. But I limited myself. I didn't stop myself from having it, but I just had it once a week. And every Saturday night, I'd look forward to that Thai dinner.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was just negotiating with myself and just saying, no, just have something else tonight. And, it just seemed to work. And I also had Mark here doing it with me. So we did it together. And I really think as a team, he was already ripped. Hated him. I was so jealous. He was already so fit, but he did it with me because it became a game in our household. We enjoyed counting the calories and seeing what we could and couldn't have, and it became something that we did together, and that I think really helped.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah,
could I have been that disciplined on my own? I don't know, but he really helped me in that respect.
Yeah, I think when you start to see it like a game, it does help. Like it kind of makes it fun, as opposed to just feel like you're depriving yourself or, this is so hard. You kind of see it as a challenge. Like that's what I like to do as well when I'm dieting is I like to put the foods in that I'm trying to make room for. Let's say, you said you like cakes and donuts and stuff. I like ice cream. That's mainly my thing. So I would put that in at the start of the day. So I know that I have that. And then I would work back from there so that I always made room for it. So then it was like a game of, okay, what else can I squeeze in that's healthier than ice cream? And what do I feel like? What can I put in there? Can I put peanut butter in? Should I not? So I can have that later on in the day. Like it was a bit of a game, but I like what you said.
Absolutely.
Like I like what you said, and you didn't have to change the type of food that you were having.
Yeah.
You were just changing the quantity. And that's
like,
that's what really gets under my skin as a personal trainer when people say, oh, you can't have that, or that's not healthy. All right, we're going to do this challenge. Like heaps of personal trainers do challenges, but it's like, here's your meal plan. Okay, we're cutting sugar, we're cutting bread, we're cutting dairy, we're not doing that. And you're going to do this for 8 weeks. And let's say they do get great results in 8 weeks, but then what's the solution after that? When they want to go back to normal, where they do want to eat a donut on the couch, if they do that, they associate that with that being bad. And then they're kind of forever stuck on this meal plan. And that's why I'm not team meal plan. I'm team flexible dieting, because as you said, you don't have to cut anything out. You just have to have discipline with the quantity, but you still get to have that taste of the things you enjoy. And it just makes it feel that much more sustainable.
Well, as you just said, Ben, the word that you just used then was enjoy. And I want to enjoy my life. And food is a big part of my life. Again, I keep mentioning Mark, but he doesn't love food. Mark eats because he has to eat. And that just blows my mind, because
I'm kind of in his kind of mindset. Yeah, I'm not a big foodie. I've always said this with, so my wife will go off, not go off at me, but she'll because I like growing up in New Zealand, I was tomato sauce on everything. So I'll just she gets so offended. I look at her like I'm halfway through my dinner. I'm like, I'm gonna get the sauce now, and it's kind of like, it's got to a place where it's okay. But first of all, it was like, what the hell are you doing? Like I would put it on Thai food, I'd put it on Indian food, I would just absolutely ruin food. Like a foodie like yourself would be like, what are you doing? But for me, because I guess I was like Mark, I ate because I had to eat, and I was a skinny kid growing up. So I would literally not have to force feed myself, but I'd have to eat a big volume of food. So I'd kind of just be like, well, I'm not really enjoying this. I'll just eat it because I have to. Like I would just put bread on things because I had to, or else I'll just keep losing weight because I was so active. But I'm probably in Mark's camp with kind of eating because I had to.
I grew up with a father who's mixed race. So my dad's Malaysian and a whole bunch of other things. But I grew up with Malaysian food on the stove. Like my dad would cook curries and rice, and it was just always sitting on the stove. So we've always been exposed to yummy food growing up. So I don't know. But for me, like you just said then before, like to enjoy, like I can't enjoy what I do, and I certainly can't sustain my work if I'm not eating. Food brings me happiness, and that becomes part of the happiness that I need to get through my day. And I'm just not, and as you say, other trainers, I just would never be willing to sacrifice food, but certainly learned that sacrificing the quantities of what I eat, like there's no denying that it works. like, as I think I mentioned to you, like I was going through like this box of 26 chocolate chip cookies in 24 hours, like during that lockdown period, like before I started the program. Like I would literally eat 26 cookies in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like it was bad, but I didn't, but I love cookies, but I didn't see the effect that it was having on
Mm.
me, and learning about that, I think the food journey more than anything else, because as I say, I've trained and the workouts are fantastic. And you've certainly introduced me to a whole brand new way of training and the variation, or how important the variation is, and in changing things up and using programs for a certain amount of time to build, to be goal focused, and then changing accordingly depending on the way you've progressed with strength and all of that sort of stuff. But the food stuff, like that has been the big game changer for me, really learning that those quantities really matter.
Mm.
Really matters.
And how did you stay focused during lockdown training at home? Because obviously you had a Built by Brock program, which would have helped because you would have committed yourself to something. But still, even me, I struggled to train at home. Like I did it because I had to, but I've had years of, and I posted about this morning on Instagram, actually, I've had years of doing things that I don't want to do.
Right.
When you don't really want to do them. But because you do it, you kind of build this grit, you build this resilience of, okay, it's just something that has to be done so I can do it. And I understand that you would have had that too with your career and even with your training and stuff. But how did you stay motivated? Because a lot of people were in that position that you were, but for the whole pandemic, eating donuts on the couch, but for the whole time, like you gave it, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 or 3. And then you were like, all right, I need to get myself into gear.
I think did we start the program in the September?
I think it
was
It
September
started in
or
August.
August.
Yeah.
31st of
Around
August.
there. Yeah.
And I noticed that I was starting to eat. So it was actually March that year was when I started the downhill slide. It was March, April, May, June, July. So it was about 5 months of gluttony, as I like to call it. Or as Mark calls me, a guts. He said, "You're a guts." And I hate being called a guts because I'm like, I don't call me a guts. That's awful. But it's the truth. I was being a guts. But I stayed motivated, well, for a couple of things. And the first one is I just kept looking at that photo of myself. That really motivated me to have those pictures and to keep uploading those pictures into the app so that you could see them. The accountability kept me motivated. The thought of you putting this time into me and then me not coming back with the results, that was a factor. And I really, when I look back at the pictures, I noticed that at the 3-week mark, I was doing what I was doing, but really at the 3-week mark, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks is where I went. Like I just noticed massive changes week after week. So it took a couple of weeks to kick in, but also I think, as I say, I don't do anything in life unless I really want to do it. I've always been like that. It was not a problem for me to stay motivated during that 8 weeks at all. In fact, I would wake up every day and the first thing that I would do is reach for my phone to see what my workout was going to be. I had absolutely no issues at all throughout that entire time staying motivated because I really wanted to do it. And I knew that email to you the night before, it just something clicked in my head, and but I loved that. Even that at home workout, it was phenomenal. Like it was phenomenal for me. I just responded well to it. And I think that combined with the mindset plus the support of Mark, with the food and that whole thing, everything just seemed to come together really, really easily. As we've discussed, what I find now is that, like with my work and the things that I do with life, it's been this last 4 months of, all my new programming with you that I've had my ups and downs with trying to keep in line with the new stuff that we've been doing, because as you know, with my work every week can be different and depending physically on how I feel. But during that 8 week at home, not a drama. I did not struggle at all with that. Initially with food, I might have, I was like, oh God, but that was just, again, changing habits but doing the workouts and getting up each day to face what I had to do that day was not an issue at all.
Yeah, one thing you touched on with like taking photos and looking at yourself. That's why I'm a big fan of people doing that.
Yeah,
Obviously, if people have something that it's going to negatively impact their mental health when they see photos like that, I'm not going to push it on someone like you have to take photos. But
yeah,
I just know that when you look at photos, and even myself, sometimes you can just say, okay, I've let myself go, or I'm comfortable. So
yeah.
now it's time to get back into that. And it's not like fat shaming yourself, like, oh, I'm this person or that person, and negatively talking about yourself. I think it's
Mm.
just important to track where you're at, so you can have an honest representation of actually where you're at, because we're so good at lying to ourselves and
Oh
being
God,
like,
yeah,
oh, it's all good, it's fine, I've been worse, or something like that. But when you actually look at facts and data and what you actually look like, sometimes
yeah.
that can be the motivating factor. And that's why, same with calories, like we can say, oh, I'm not being too bad, I'm being pretty good with my calories. And then as soon as you track it, that you're like 2,000
Oh
calories
yeah,
over your maintenance. And that's
yeah,
why you're putting on,
yeah,
that's why you're putting on weight.
yeah. There's only one other time in my life when I, and as I say to you, looking at that picture, it shocked me. And if I go back like 12 years, because as I say, I've always been fit. But I remember, I remember getting some photos back from a Christmas. And there's a picture, Aussie Christmas, sometimes it's really hot. And there's this picture of me sitting at the Christmas dinner table or lunch table, because I remember it must have been really hot because I had no shirt on.
Yeah.
And whoever clicked this random picture, it was a picture of me with a chicken leg in my hand. And someone had clicked the picture just as I had opened my mouth and was about to put it in my mouth. And I was leaning forward, and I had this big belly, which I didn't actually have. I probably had a bit of extra weight on, but just that clicking that moment in time, that was the only other time in my life where I've looked at a picture and gone, oh, is that me? And
Yeah.
and I was like, that's me. Look at me. And as I say, I'm not into fat shaming either. I have never forced myself to have the perfect body, only the body that I was happy with.
Mm.
And that's all that really matters to me. I see people half my age with washboard abs, and I've never had that body type. My abs poke out at times throughout my life,
Yeah.
but I'm not built that way. But I've always had a waist, and I've always felt very fit. And literally last August was the last time I sort of looked at myself even then I wasn't ashamed. I was just a bit shocked that
Yeah.
I'd done it, but I didn't think for 1 minute that I couldn't rectify it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to fix this. And I did.
Yeah. And I think that's, yeah, like one thing that we can't forget as well is like what you can actually do with your body, which is where I always tend to go. Like, it's not always about having abs or having, this or that, but like what you can do with your body is very impressive. And,
Yeah.
and often I think that should be the goal. Yes, there's a time and point where we should, okay, let's really dial down and go for abs, or we're going away on holiday, we're getting married, or I just want to feel confident with my shirt off, like there
Yeah.
are time for those goals. But I think beyond that, we also have to look at what we actually do with our body, and what you do with dancing and with gym now, like especially as you've really challenged your strength.
Yeah.
That is amazing, and often I would think that would be more important than having abs. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
everyone's different, but like for you and your career and where you're at, being strong and being able to hold your own, especially with your Corey and everything that you're doing,
Yeah.
that's super important. And I think often people just set this random goal. I want to have abs just because that's what they see on social media. Oh, there's a
That's right.
fitness model, he's got abs,
Yeah.
I guess I'll
That's
just try and look
exactly
like
it.
him.
Yeah.
And often it doesn't fit the criteria of what you actually need in your life.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, as an example, when push comes to shove, when I was working last week, physically so demanding, the repetition of doing what I do, like spending all day teaching and dancing and showing, people like hour after hour with no break. I
Yeah.
just remember that the woman that I was working with, she happened to buy me a chocolate chip cookie that day, one of those big chocolate chip cookies, but it was sitting in a bag. But I actually got to a point, I think it was near the end of the 4th hour, that from going and going and going and going, that if I had this moment where I actually felt quite lightheaded, and I suddenly thought, oh gosh, I felt like my blood sugar level had just dropped to a point where I just started to feel quite faint. And I reached for that cookie, and I ate about half of it. It was one of those giant ones. And I sort of ate about half of it. And after a few minutes, I could feel my body it just needed that hit at the time. And if I have to choose between my well-being and just having a quick sugar spike and eating a half a cookie than starving myself to have abs,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the cookie, or I'm going to pick the orange juice or whatever's close by over that every time. Because I think I couldn't, to starve yourself for those kind of gains it just doesn't make sense to me. And it never has.
Once again, it's about performance as well.
Yeah.
Especially with your work, like it's at the detriment if you're like, oh no, cookie's bad, I'm gonna starve myself, I'm gonna wait and then have a salad or whatever.
Yeah.
But often, carbohydrates, fats, like isn't something that we should step away from or try and avoid, like especially with high physical activity levels, like and when you have a decent amount of calories, you can have that food and what we talked about before, and it's not going to negatively impact you. If anything, it'll make a diet more sustainable and enjoyable for you, and it will help fuel your workouts or fuel your performance in your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I have a big amount of calories per day. Like I have to eat at least 3,500 per day or else I'll lose weight. And if I want to try and maintain or build muscle or get stronger, I have to be in a surplus or at least maintenance. And like, I'm not afraid to post the stuff that I eat because it's like, well, like it's just for me, like it doesn't mean you should eat 3 burgers at lunchtime. That's what I did on Sunday. I went to Grilled. I got a Zen hen burger. I got a chicken and brie burger. And then I got like a Simply Grilled burger, like 3 burgers.
Seriously?
It was probably like 1,500 calories, right? But what you don't see is I've trained 6 days that week.
Yeah.
I did 3 jiu-jitsu sessions, and they're probably about 90 minutes to 2 hours in duration.
Yeah.
So I'm expending so many calories. I'm 6 foot. I'm 90 kg. Like there is a lot that's going on just to keep me moving. And then I, back that up with 10,000 steps a day and like all these workouts. Like that's what you have to do. And I guess I guess that's the danger as well. Like if you just look on social media and just see what people are eating and what people look like, you're like, well, that's okay. I guess I'll just do that. But it's for each person. Like
absolutely,
it's all individual.
And that's what I found with the workouts and with the program too, is that, and I saw the results of some of the other clients that were in the challenge. And, I can see that everyone had, some amazing results from some of the other people in the challenge. But I noticed that none of us had the same results.
Yeah.
It's interesting. People were, like seeing the pictures of other clients and seeing like the different weight loss in different places or the muscle gain in different places. And we're all doing the same workout and applying the same rules, but just different bodies are different bodies. And so we all ended up with our own personal results, and all of them are fantastic. And one is not better than the other. I mean, even though and I'm going to say it again, even though you made me the winner and I was chill, I don't think that necessarily means either that, my effort was any better than anyone else's. I think we all put in some effort, and, so I'm going off track now, but you kept like the amount of communication that we get from you, even in that group situation, is just, I've said to Mark, and I've thought to myself, how do you even find the hours in the day to communicate as much as you do, plus do everything that you do? Like that's the best. I think that's one of the best thing about the groups, and promoting that communication within the group so we can all talk to each other. And, I don't think there's a single comment on our Facebook group that you don't respond to personally or in some positive way. And I think that plays a huge part in Built by Brock as well.
Yeah. Well, that's what I strive for.
Feel like you're on your own.
Yeah, that's what I strive for. Like so I created Built by Brock. A month before or a couple of months before the actual challenge began. So
Right.
August, it was probably a couple of months. Yeah, maybe July 30th, 31st, I kind of started it. And I really wanted to try and create a community, especially with COVID, because COVID was really strong at this time. We were all at home. Like I was at home myself too. And I was like, man, like I want a place that's, well, first of all, I guess more cost effective than working with me one-on-one. So we can all kind of, I can have more people, but then this communication, that's why people get personal training face to face, because yes, they want guidance in their training and their nutrition, but they also want, I guess, someone to ask questions and someone to come to just to really say, oh, that workout was good, or this could have been better, or blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to create that as well. And that's why, we do the coaching calls now, and why I'm always in the Facebook group, because that's often just what we want, like a community or just accountability,
support.
Really accountability and support.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to, like I always say, like it's easier to give up on yourself than it is to give up on someone else, because no one's keeping you accountable but you. And if it's just you, like I'm all for hard work, and yes, it's me against the world, but it's also like, that's why people get coaches, and that's why sport teams have coaches, so they can get that guidance.
Well, let me tell you, over the course of my entire fitness journey, I have had at times personal trainers in real life, and none of them have helped me achieve what you have. I've had personal trainers in person that stand there and they're on their phones, as well as being a performer.
Don't get me started on the phones, man.
Right. I'm also a teacher. I teach dance and singing students at an advanced level. I know what it's like to stand one-on-one with a student, or to have to maintain the energy of a class full of 30 brilliant dancers for 90 minutes. That's my responsibility. I have to motivate that class. I have to get results. I have to make them feel like they're achieving something. So I know a fake when I see it. And I've more so often, and look, I haven't had a lot of trainers, but the ones that I have, I literally have said, look, this isn't working, because I just don't like you. I kind of feel like their function is there to motivate me and to help me achieve what I want to achieve. And I've just, like, honestly, I get more, and even the sessions that we have one-on-one,
through the phone,
when through the phone, like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, I just wish, oh God, I wish he could see me right now, because I am struggling. But you know what? You count me through every rep. I know that you're watching me. And for an hour, I don't feel for 1 second, and we chat in between, but you keep me on my time limits, you keep me on my toes, and it's actually far more productive than any other training session that I've ever had.
Yeah, mate, that's one thing that really got under my skin when I first started personal training. So I started, I've done a few gyms, right? But I guess the worst experience I had was my final gym in Sydney, where, people were on their phone. Like I remember seeing this guy, and he was busy, and I really don't understand how he was busy. Maybe he was charging $10 a session or something, but he would literally have his phone, right? He would have his phone down by the charger. And you know how the charger's only maybe 1 meter long. So he's down, crouched down, literally facing away from his client who's doing back squats.
Yeah.
And he's on his phone. His phone's charged. I'm like, man, what is more important right now? Do you really? And he did that for the whole session. And people started complaining. But the thing that I hated the most about it was when people would see him, and he was right by the entrance of the gym, which was even worse. People would think, oh, that's what personal trainers are like.
Right.
And then I would have my clients, and they would get a completely different experience. Personalized program. I'm there, I'll carry their towels. I'll get them water if they need, all this kind of stuff. But then, there was such a difference. And that's one thing that's always been really frustrating as personal training is there's no real, I don't know, you're level 1, you're level 2, you're level 3, go with this guy, he's this, and, and this guy's that. It's just there's a really low barrier to entry, and it's like a lucky dip. You would have had people that were on their phone that would have annoyed you, but maybe there was someone else at that gym that would have been really great for you.
Well, look, the difference is that, and I think, and again, I can relate to you in some ways with what I do, is that there's a very big difference between somebody who works for a job and someone who loves what they do. And I've never felt in my career in professional musical theatre, like when I get to go into the theatre, I don't feel like I'm working. Yes, the hours are long, and you can live at the theatre, or I can spend hour upon hour teaching, but I actually love it. And I think that's the difference. I don't do what I do to make money, God forbid. And I know that, but in that sense is what I'm saying. But of course, I do it to make money, as you do too. We want a nice life for ourselves. But you can spot the difference between somebody that does what they're doing because they think, oh, I can charge $90 for this and get away with it. Oh, great, let's do that. And you're laughing all the way to the bank. But it's obvious that you love what you do. And because I love what I do, I can see that in you. And so I know that you're not, leading me up the garden path
I can get away with
rubbish. Yeah. And there's, and I think your clients are going to spot the difference. I think we all see that. Do you know what I mean? And then so you sort of go, oh, this is awesome. And so you want to jump on board that train.
Yeah, well, that's I shared this. I did a podcast yesterday with one of the like OG personal trainers that I learned from, like when I first started, when I was in this gym where that guy was texting, and I was doing his courses and I was learning in my spare time, and I walked the gym floor for a while, like as you do when you first start, to try and pick up clients. Hey, can I help you? My name's Brock. I'm new here. If you need help, let me know. Whatever. Offering free sessions, doing all this kind of stuff just to build up my clientele and show people that I can do what I say I do or what they want. And I built up my client base relatively quickly in 3 months. And then after that, I didn't have to walk the gym floor after that because I could maintain my clients, right? Because, like you said, I cared and I tried to do the best that I could. And then there's, like this guy who was on his phone all the time and he was probably double my age, and he was always walking the floor trying to find new clients. Yeah. Always. Just because he wasn't upskilling. Well, number two, he wasn't passionate either, but he just didn't have the skill set or the passion or the desire to get better to actually maintain a client. Yeah. So yes, maybe he was doing heaps of sessions, but the lifetime of his clients was probably, I don't know, 3 weeks to 3 months, where after 3 months for me, I didn't have to walk the gym floor ever because I just maintained my clients, or they would tell someone, or I actually got quite a few people would see me with clients like back to back. And then, in between me saying goodbye to a client and walking to a new client that was waiting for me, they would say, oh, hey, can I have your number? I want to work with you, type of thing. And that's, people see passion. And that's I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm such an amazing trainer, but I guess I'm trying to get the fact that, when you're passionate and when you're enjoying what you do, like you radiate an energy that's
absolutely. And you can't fake that. You can't fake it.
You can't.
And effort equals results. And
100%.
What you're saying, even about your work ethic, it's the same when you're applying it to your, as a client, to your actual exercise. Effort equals results. And that's a life lesson. That's not a gym lesson or a training lesson.
Yeah.
It's a life lesson. And I think what exercise can do, and what your programs, like your program, like the Built by Brock program, once I got that part of me together, I was just so much more open to, not that we're lucky. I have a nice life. I'm not going to lie. I don't wake up every morning struggling and thinking, oh God, today's a bad day. How am I going to get through today? We're really lucky, but the program gave me clarity. It gave me, like, I was quite down, and it just changed my perspective on life in general. So, I just felt like it just, as soon as I finished the program and I got with you, I then decided to update my entire musical theatre songbook. So it inspired me to get all my stuff ready for the next part of my career. Yeah. Even though musicals were shut down in the country with COVID, I learned 15 new songs and worked with a musical director to get, so the challenge led me to that. So all of a sudden I was just finding myself getting organized. That's what winning Built by Brock did for me. It just spurred me on to get motivated in other areas of my life as well.
Yeah, that's it. So I always come back to the saying, it's actually one of my favorite quotes, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's why well, like that's a pure example of that. But that's why I'm a big fan of the gym. And what I was saying earlier, like doing things you don't want to do when you don't want to do them is such a power. Like,
Yeah,
because once you do that, you know, like you feel the results of it. And then like for you with your career and, you know, just learning 15 new songs, you didn't need to do that, but you've put in work in other areas, you saw results. So you're like,
that's
well, if,
right.
you know, maybe if I do it over here, I'll see results
Yeah,
as well.
it's
Uh, yeah.
it's absolutely true.
Mm.
What did you say it was? If you do
How you do anything is how you do everything.
how you do anything, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorites. I'd love to know within your career in choreography, or also if you're performing, I mean, like in teaching and or performing, where have you felt the benefits of training or gym? Like, has there been a moment where you've felt, oh, you know, I was, you know, lucky I was strong enough to do that, or lucky I've been doing
Yeah.
training outside to do that? Like, are there any maybe standout moments or memories where you've
Yes.
experienced that?
Oh gosh, yeah. When I was, as I said, I'm 49. When I was 44, or could have been 43 or 44, but I don't know if you've ever heard of. There's a big Queen musical that's been in London, Australia, all over the world called "We Will Rock You," and it was written by Ben Elton, who's an author and musical theatre director. And
Okay.
I went in to audition for this particular show, and as I said at the time, 43 or 44 years old, and every single person that had kind of played that role previously was either mid 20s to mid 30s. It was never someone my age has never been cast in the show. And I remember going along thinking, oh, I don't know about this. I could be a bit old to play this role, but there was something about it that I really liked. And when I walked into the audition room after doing heaps and heaps of auditions into the final callback, because the character's name was Brit, or all the characters in We Will Rock You were named after like pop stars or rock stars. And the funny thing about my character is that he was the rough, you know, he was the bohemian rough guy, the leader of these crazy band of bohemians, and
Yeah.
his name was Britney Spears.
Right.
So
Okay.
my character's name was Brittany, but I had to talk like he was just rough. Had a kilt on. I literally shaved my head, had a mohawk, everything.
Right.
And I remember that when I walked into the final audition, it was the first time that Ben Elton was actually there. And I walked in with Jazz Flowers, who was the girl that a great mate of mine, and she ended up playing Oz, who was my girlfriend in the show, and named after Ozzy Osbourne, and she
Right.
played Oz. And as we walked in, he stopped us in our tracks, and he literally looked us both up and down, and he went, "God, could I have had two people that couldn't look more perfect for these roles?" And I remember at the time, I remember just thinking, you know, as a, you know, not that I was old, but I was older. I was just thinking, there's no way I would have got this role had I not been training and keeping myself fit. And you know, I earned in that year, I earned some bloody good money. And I just remember thinking, God, and I'm not saying it was just my body,
Yeah.
but my body factored into, because I've got a few tats as well. And I just think it was right for the character, but my body and my physicality played a huge part in me earning an, a great amount of money that year
Mm.
and getting that role. So had I not looked the way I looked, you know, had I been like, you know, unfit, there's no way I would have scored that role. And that was just a moment. I think that's just part of getting older too. You're thinking, oh, you know, and you doubt yourself as you get older and you get into your 40s. And I was thinking, oh, don't go. You're not going to get this role. They're going to give it to someone younger. You're too old. And you start saying all this stuff to yourself. And really, I think I said that to you when I won the challenge as well. That one of the things that I initially thought was, God, I'm 48. How am I going to? I can't win this challenge. And I started using age as an excuse of, you know, age is, you know, a barrier to achieving. And what I just realized, well, that's absolute rot,
Yeah.
you know,
I love that
because now,
mindset.
yeah, it is. It's complete rot. You know, you can achieve anything. You may not do it as quickly as you would have when you're 25 or 30 or a bit younger, but it still actually happens. So yeah, that's the one that really sticks out in my mind as the moment where I was really proud of myself because as a professional dancer and a singer and actor, the self-discipline. I mean, I started doing this professionally when I was 16. I mean, I've been doing it for 33 years professionally, and that takes an awfully big amount of discipline physically. After I mean,
Yeah.
I've been performing in musical theatre longer than you've been alive, haven't I?
Yeah. I'm 28. Yeah, I'm
There you
28.
go. See, so I started my professional career on stage 5 years before you were even born. So
Yeah.
I've had to keep up this physical journey of mine for all of those years. And considering where I am now physically and what I'm still achieving, I'm bloody, thrilled with my
Yeah, you're in
progress.
an amazing spot.
But I'm also grateful that, I was before I met you, I was going to the gym and I was maintaining a body, but I was nowhere near as strong as I am now, because
Yeah.
I was doing the same workouts every week. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that I've noticed. I haven't grown hugely in size, but I didn't want to. And that's the other thing. But what I've noticed and what I wanted was I just feel so much stronger now. I remember when we started, I couldn't even do, because I've got an injury with my hand when I broke my finger. And so, like I always said to you, like doing chin-ups or just doing a pull-up was, I could never get past 4 or 5. And I'm knocking out 12, 4
Yeah.
sets of 12 now. Like that to me, that in itself is, the ability just to pull my body up and go boom and do that was like, that's where I've really noticed like the most positive. I'm like, oh, wow. Or bench pressing, 80, 90 kilos, which I've never done before.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot. I know in the scheme of things,
Well,
but
it's
for
still a
me,
lot.
no, but for me it was, because I'd never wanted to go past, bench pressing 60 kilos, because again, I never wanted to lift heavy because I had to worry about my career. And as soon as I felt like things were getting too heavy, that could possibly cause me an injury or accident, so I pull back.
You back
And
off.
what I've learned with you, and I've had to back off all those years, but now that I'm learning with these programs, I'm actually finding that my strength is increasing. I'm probably stronger at 49 than I have ever been, like
Yeah.
in terms of lifting weight. But the confidence that comes along with doing that is what I have now. I don't go, oh,
Yeah.
I shouldn't do this because I'm going to get hurt or blah, blah, blah. I just sort of go, no, you can challenge yourself this week. Let's go up to 90 and see how we go. And yeah, I might only do 3 or 4 reps, but that's more than I did, before.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it.
Yeah.
It's confidence. Like I was the same when I was just getting into lifting, which, I was quite young, but I had no idea what I was doing. I would never really push the envelope in terms of, because I was worried about getting injured, especially with things like squats and deadlifts. Like
Yeah.
no one was helping me. I was just going off the cuff. I would do the classic, just look at a big dude in the gym and be like, I'm going to do that. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We've
And then
all done that.
yeah, and then as soon as he puts the equipment down, you like run over and you do exactly what they were doing. So like, I was literally doing that. I didn't lack confidence, but I didn't have the courage or the confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to do as heavy as I can for this amount of reps, right? And that's why
Yeah.
I'm so focused on form. But actually, like lifting heavy weight isn't something to be concerned about. Obviously if your form goes out the window and you're ego lifting, that's a different story. But
Yeah.
actually, like, there's a quote, and I'm probably going to stuff it up because I don't really know it, but it's like, if you think like going to the gym or being strong is like unsafe, like try not being strong.
Right.
Like it's much more unsafe to be weak than it is to be
Yeah.
strong. So like, and if you're doing things right in the gym, like, and getting stronger, that's actually much better than just doing nothing and kind
Yeah.
of remaining
Well,
weak.
we were actually, again, Mark and I were having a conversation that was only a couple of days ago. And he said to me, and this is a question that I have for you, like, how did you come up with your programs? Like, how was it trial and error? Have you just spent years finding what works and what doesn't? Like, how do you, because that's what I find most, because we were chatting about it. He's like, how does he know? Like, what
Yeah.
is this through trial and error? Have you, like, how did you get where you've gotten?
Yeah. So actually my wife
Sorry,
asked me the same
I'm
question.
asking the questions now.
No. It's fine. It's good. It's good. Because actually my wife asked me, because I do her programs as well. And she
Right.
was like, how do you know what to do? Because she was like, oh, she said, oh, I couldn't do glute bridges, so I did a Bulgarian split squat. And I said, oh, I probably wouldn't replace it with that. And then she was like, why? And then she asked, oh, well, how do you do my programs overall?
Right.
It's a good question, man. And it's not something that you can just say, oh, it was this, because it's a balance of what the research says. It's a
Right.
balance of what the goal is. And it's also a balance of what has worked for me and what has worked for other clients. So
Right.
that's why when people do online coaching and they haven't been a face-to-face coach, I just think it's absolutely absurd. I'm like, you haven't seen what works for people. You don't know what people go through
Yeah.
face-to-face or how their body moves. So like I was a personal, like before I went online, I was face-to-face for 6 years. I did tons of hours on the gym floor. I was there from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. most days.
Yeah.
And you see what works. You see what people struggle with, males, females, you know, overweight, underweight, really strong, really weak. You see what works. So that has really helped me decide what population or what person I'm working with, you know,
Right.
what the end goal will be. So it's always reverse engineering. What do I want the goal to be? So that's like one, you know, and like dealing with who's in front of you. And then there's like, you know, what the research says, or just knowing anatomy, what a push is, what a pull is. Like, for
Yeah.
example, there's horizontal push, which is like your chest press movements where you're pushing horizontally. There's vertical push, which is like shoulders overhead. You have
Yeah.
horizontal pull where you're doing like rows. Then you have vertical pull where you're doing like pull-ups. And then there's other ones for the lower body too. And you kind of have to look at it as in, you know, I never want to be too out of balance. So if I'm doing a lot of pushing, I have to balance that with a lot of pulling, or else you create imbalance, which is what you faced. Your
Yeah.
chest wasn't strong enough for your back. And then that's where you started to get injured.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of, especially dudes, get injured because they're doing bench press, they're doing lateral raises, they're doing all this chest and shoulder work. They actually, the opposite to you, they forget about their
Yeah.
back. And then they
Yeah.
have sore elbows, and then they have terrible posture because their chest is tight. And
Yeah.
then, you know, it leads to trouble. So there's that experience mixed with, I guess, knowledge of anatomy and movement patterns. And then, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Like
Yeah.
it's a balance of being a practitioner, being a personal trainer, seeing what happens, but then it's also, you have to mix it with what science comes out, because there's always a lot coming out in terms of
Yeah.
how many sets to do, how many sets are able to allow people to recover and push at the same time. And everyone's different. But when I'm doing programs like Built by Brock, where it's like
Yeah.
the goal is to create like a male physique where we're predominantly focused on upper body. We don't forget lower body. You know, we generally want chest, shoulders, back, arms. Like there's certain things we want to follow. So maybe I'll turn up sets or volume in that certain place. But then, yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard, man. Like, and then there's different techniques. Like we'll use drop sets, or we'll
Yeah.
use rest pause methods, or we'll use tempo. Like for example, in the Christmas Crunch Challenge, we did the tempo contrast method, where we
Mm.
did 5 reps slow, 5 reps fast on the same muscle group.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, that's a new one. Like when I first did that, I was like, what's this? Like I've never used tempo as a variable. You just think
Yeah.
sets and reps, or 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 8, 5 sets of 5 type of thing. But then when you think, excuse me, it's like 4 sets of 10, but then in the 10, the speed of the reps are different. Like
That's
that's
right.
like you're like, whoa.
I think I mentioned to you a little while ago, the tempo has changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remembering to look at the tempos initially was like, oh God, you've just done that whole exercise 3 times, but you didn't check the tempo. And so now, like when I look at the app and when I look at my program, I just double check the tempo all the time. And I actually think that's been an integral part of gaining my strength, is learning that control. And the tempos really changed. I might have emailed you about that quite a
Yeah.
while
No,
back, because I
yeah,
remember
you
it
have.
really did. Because that, for me, you know, you're just trying to, in our minds, before you have information, you're just trying to struggle to get reps out. And I've realized now, like sometimes in my programs, you'll say you need to do 6 reps. And I know that sometimes you say, look, if you can only get out 4, then have a rest and then do 2 more if you need to do 6. And that's the only thing from you that I've ignored. And I shouldn't say ignored, but I haven't always done that, because I want to when I go back, and each week when I start a new program, I like to go back to the week before to check in the app what I actually did, and if how I performed last time I did the same workout, and if I so I just for the first couple of weeks I just like to put in whatever it is that I could do,
Yeah.
just so that I've got a benchmark to look at when I go the next week. I think, I could only manage 3 of those last week, and let's try to get 4. Let's try to get the full 6. And then, but then by the end of it, I always find that by the time I get to the 3rd and 4th week, I've achieved the amount honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I shouldn't say honestly, but
without
I've
taking
done
a
it.
break.
That's it. And that's, and I'm sorry if that's a little bit naughty, but
No. But the only point of, say, doing 4 instead of doing 6 is like, if you accidentally, or if you really think, okay, I've got this, and then you don't get it. Like, the goal is not to go, I'm just going to increase the weight anyway and just do 4 and just see. Like, that's not the mindset. It's, you always go for the reps that are there. But if you can't and you fall short, then that's okay. Just take a bit of rest and do it, and then realize, okay, that was too heavy. Then maybe you pull it back, as opposed to
that's right.
going, oh yeah, I'll just do 4, take a break and do 6, because that's cheating. Because then
it's
you're
cheating.
literally saying you did a weight for 6 reps, but you didn't. So that was
and
never
and that's another thing with the initial challenge. I did not cheat, and I think that's the easy thing to do sometimes is to go, you know what, I got 9, but I'll put down 10. And I've thought of it. No, but you do.
Oh, we all do. We all do.
Because that, again, because of that accountability, I don't want Brock to go, oh, look, Thern's just been really crap this week. But it crosses your mind to cheat. And I just never have. That's even good. Though, like, I've been tempted to go, oh, let's just put it down, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I think, and that's the other thing too. And again, that comes to a discipline thing. About just, holding the accountability, as you say, holding yourself accountable, being accountable to you as a coach. Honestly, it's all or nothing. And if you can't do that, then, the only person you're really cheating is yourself. And, and I as in those moments of doubt, like, just, I don't know what I had my little voice in my head that goes, no, come on, get through it, push through it. Don't lie. Like, be honest.
Yeah, but the more you listen to that voice, the louder that voice gets. That's one thing that I've definitely noticed. Like, and that's why I was saying, once again, to come back to doing the things you don't want to do, or listening to that voice that you don't want to listen to, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. Like, life's full of moments like that. You're going to have to do plenty of things. And, like, why not just get into the habit of sucking it up and really, because you just have to move through.
Yeah, because it comes much easier in the long run.
Yeah.
I want to be aware of time, and just kind of wrap up the podcast with this question.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is the Better with Brock podcast. It's about being better, right? In all areas. Yes, predominantly fitness, nutrition, because I'm a personal trainer. You're into fitness too. But ultimately, it's about self-development, which I'm a huge fan of as well. So one of the questions that I have for you is, what do you do every day that ensures that you become better, or that helps you become better? It doesn't have to be fitness. It doesn't have to be work. It can be anything in life, but it's more so about the fact of becoming better in any way.
Every day I get up and I do my chores, and I call them chores. First thing, I make a cup of coffee. I can make my latte at home, and I don't even sit down to have the latte. I take a sip, because that magical first sip, which we all love, like, I love that first big, beautiful sip of my coffee in the morning. But then I will start my chores. I will empty the dishwasher. I will, if there's things from the previous night, I like to go to bed with a tidy house. I'm one of those people. I like a clean, tidy home. Mark is the opposite. Cyclone, tornado Mark. If I put something away, he'll pull it out. So
Monsoon Mark.
Monsoon Mark. Let's call him that. So for me, I don't start my day until my home is in order, and bed making is the biggest one for me. I have to make my bed. I have to make sure that when I leave the house to do things that I want to do for me, that I'm coming home to a clean living space. That's my thing. That's how I start my day every day. And some days I get a bit tired. I'm like, or whatever. But clean, tidy home. That's how I think.
How you do anything is how you do everything, right?
That's it. So yeah, get up and do, I don't get up and sit down, and I get up, and once I'm up, I'm up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm the
that's what
same
I
with
do.
my coffee. So I do that. I make the coffee and I could be better. I always make the bed. Today I did the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the same. Like I can't work if the house is a mess. I
Oh, same.
struggle because my
Yeah.
mind feels if I'm trying to, let's say we're doing this podcast. My mind is like, you need to put that glass in the dishwasher, or you need to put
Yeah.
the
Right.
clothes on, or you need to hang this out, or, you need to wipe down this or that. Like I'm the
Yeah. It's
same,
so true.
but it just helps me like the way I look at it is like, it eliminates all friction. So that when you actually
Absolutely.
sit down to do what you need to do, when you do sit down, you're focused.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
today when I sat down here this morning with you, everything's done over there. And I thought, I'll just sit myself on the couch. The cushions are there, blah, blah, blah. Everything's
Mm.
in order. Otherwise, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be sitting here going, oh God, I just wouldn't feel like I could have had this conversation without getting stuff done first.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Even though even though it was only half an hour, I still, you know what I mean? It still had to be done. It had to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I try to do it the night before now, so I don't have to wake up to it. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Try and finish the day in a clean way. At the end of the day, pack the dishwasher, like get stuff done at the end of the day so you can go to bed and wake up without having to do
Yeah.
that.
Without it hanging over you,
That's
being like,
it.
oh, I have to
Yeah.
do this. I have to do that.
Yeah. And here we've
Yeah.
ended our conversation talking about housework.
Talking about dishwashers and stacking them. How exciting.
How exciting. There you go, Built by Brock podcast listeners.
Yeah. If you've learned anything, make sure you do your dishes. Do it at night or do it when you wake up.
That's
Hey,
it.
man, well, I appreciate your time, man. I know you're a busy dude and you're super, you have things to do in the day. I'm sure you got a workout to get in or something. So,
Yeah, I do.
mate, I appreciate your time. It's an honor. And mate,
Honestly.
and even coaching you, mate, it's an absolute pleasure. Your energy in the Facebook group as well has been great, pushing people. And as we said, a community is a big part of Built by Brock. So just having that voice and especially coming from a challenge winner, being like, come on guys, you can do this, or, adding your 2 cents in here and there. It's been awesome, man. So I appreciate
Well, honestly, and I appreciate you a lot too. I appreciate, everything that you've done for me. Like you're just such a down to earth, say it like it is kind of guy. And I just relate so well to people like you. And I completely respect your knowledge and your support. Like you're fantastic. And I can't thank you enough for kicking my butt back into shape. Hey,
Thanks, man.
Really. So thank you. Have a great day, mate.
Awesome, man. Yeah, you too. Enjoy your workout and I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, sweet. See ya.
Thanks, brother.
No worries.